First of all, as a friend, there's always stuff that I feel like I need to say to my friends. And whether you consider me a friend or not, that's something that I consider you guys. In this pastoral role, it's really difficult to not be friends with and care about the people that you're asked to speak to. As a daddy of a daughter, it intensifies every talk that I write, because I know what kind of damage can be done to a girl and to a boy when they make poor choices in this environment. And then, of course, as an adult, I know what happens, what you carry with you from your past into your future. And because of the choices that I made, it intensifies all of this. I've told you guys clearly that I was not a virgin when I got married. My dad told me, my talk from my dad was, if you get a girl pregnant, I'll cut it off. That was my talk. He wasn't meaning to be funny or anything. That's all I got. My youth pastor never said anything about the topic. Our pastor gave one talk, and his statement was this: if I ever see a boy in our church touch one of the girls, I'll knock him out. That really doesn't set a standard for what you're supposed to behave like. You know what I'm saying? All you know is the violent repercussion if you do something that seems natural to your body. So it intensifies every talk that I give. And when I'm giving these talks, there's thousands of things you want to talk about. Because I know there's a ton of questions that you have. It's like, what about this? 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 Of which there's no way I can completely cover all of them. That's why we have small groups. That's why you have a Bible. That's why you have youth leaders. Because these questions should be going nonstop. These questions do not stop. You carry these questions all the way into your marriage, and you continue to ask questions. It should be that way. All right? That's how these should go. So I'm not going to be able to cover every little thing. But there were a few things that I feel we have to cover as boys in this series that I wanted to make sure we didn't have too much giggling and prodding and poking and distractions whenever we cover this topic. As I was growing up, one of the things that was really difficult for me as a young boy was pornography. Okay? Now, it looked totally different to me than it did to you guys. I was telling my wife at the age of 7, I remember in South Carolina, it was the first time I ever saw something like that. I was 7 years old. I was wandering behind someone's backyard. They had this garage, and in the garage, the dad had posters of it. I didn't know what it was, but it did something to my body that had never happened before. Okay? You guys follow me on that? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why it was. It freaked me out. Now, I didn't look at all the girls and stuff like that and start thinking about that when I was 7 years old. But you know what I did want to do? Guess what I wanted to do? I wanted to go back. I wanted to go back. And I went back a few times. But it never really hit me what was going on. When I got into 7th grade is when it hit me the hardest. What hit me the hardest was this. Kim Tara developed breast. A girl I really liked. Her body changed in 7th grade. And a movie called Revenge of the Nerds came out. Now, do not watch the movie, but in the movie, there is a lot of sexual activity, a lot of nudity. And when I watched that movie, it drew me in. Today's day and age, it's a little bit different. You don't have to wait for a movie to come out. You can go online. Go online on your cell phone. And it's not even you wanting to go and find certain things. Sometimes they just pop up. You know what I'm talking about? You'll just be online and bam, this image comes up that you didn't intend for it to happen. Just like we talked about last week. That crocodile jumps out and snaps you up. You had no idea that this was even coming. And next thing you know, you're charged up. How did this happen? Now through this series, you should obviously see that though the Bible does not talk directly about pornography on the internet, because the internet was not alive back then, God significantly weighs in on this topic. And in the generation that we live in, I'm assuming that you guys are a lot like I was. That because pornography is out there, and because you're boys, it's probably something that grabs your attention. It's probably something you have to fight with at times. If you don't, awesome. If you do, I'm going to say some things that will help you out. Now, not only do you have to remember that specific sites that intentionally put that stuff out there, so do some of the Instagrams, the Twitters, the Tumblrs, and stuff like that when your friends, the friends that you're girls with, put seductive pictures out online to get your attention. So these I'm putting into the same group. They can draw you in to a behavior that's very damaging. Now we know some of the damage that comes with it. If you've ever run across it, if it's ever hit your eyes, there's things you cannot unsee. You know what I'm saying? Once you've seen them, you can't forget the images. You might not still have the stimulation or the pleasure that came along with it. Remember, the body will forget physically what it'll never forget mentally. You'll still have the pictures there. And you don't necessarily like them being there, but they're there. You've got to fight against those things. And what they'll do is they start to change the way you actually are created to see a girl. One of the things that it will do is, it's actually 3 different things that will take you through. If you allow yourself to enjoy those pictures or those videos and things like that, what it'll start to do, it starts to change your mind about what a girl's really for. Your image of a girl will become different than what they were created for. You'll expect them to look a certain way that is unrealistic. You'll expect them to do things that are unrealistic. And you begin to start to devalue them. How does a culture devalue them? One of the ways is in their language. They start to call girls by certain names. They call them by the B word, or they call them hoes, and they just say it's just the way we talk. That belittling of another person is an image of how you really think of them. And you watch how many songs talk that way. That's why songs are so good. So you see that's the first thing it does. The second thing that it does is this. It makes you think that one is not enough. Because there's tons of chicks online. And they definitely have presented themselves to you. So now, one is not enough. So not only do they have to look a certain way and behave a certain way that's not naturally, one of them is not enough, which is not natural. How does that affect you? As you get older, your wife does not fulfill what your image of a woman was. Because you've turned her into something that she's not, which is a product for your satisfaction. She's disposable. And once you've used her up, you do what anybody does when the next greatest thing comes along. You get a new one. Why do we devalue women? Why is it so easy to pass them along like cell phones? Because the culture of this world says they are. The culture in the Bible said they were. As a matter of fact, until Jesus came on the scene, women were a commodity. Even men of God had hundreds of wives. You ever paid attention to how many wives Solomon, the wisest man in the world, had? Hundreds. They were used. Jesus comes on the scene. Things completely change. I don't need your help, buddy. They significantly change the way that we're supposed to treat, the way we're supposed to look at. And Ethan, dude, please, you're throwing me off, man. Could you go sit back there with John? Thanks. I love you, but I'm thrown off now. Were any of you guys listening to what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What was the last statement?
Evaluation.
Yes. You'll see when Jesus comes in, he says, you've been treating them wrong. You've been relating to them wrong. But you've even been thinking about them wrong. You guys follow me on this? Jesus says, even think about them that way. Mistreats them. So when it comes down to it, why is pornography such a nasty and bad thing? Besides the obvious, it portrays women and you in a way that is not true. You are not some animal. You are uniquely, divinely created to worship and glorify and honor God and live in holiness. Flat out how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to have a relationship with a wife one day that commits and complements each other in a way that you cannot expect if you misuse a woman and see her the wrong way your entire life. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, you might not like that I'm talking about it, and you might be like, wow, this is a lot of information. I would rather you get a lot of information from your youth pastor than all of your perverted friends out there talking in the locker room about stuff. You know what I'm saying? The high schoolers have even told me, man, in 6th grade you should have heard what they're talking about. Am I right? Did they talk about nasty stuff in 6th grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Can you see how the culture of this world is going completely opposite the way that God wants it to? You know whose responsibility it is to change that? It's yours. It's yours. My responsibility to make sure that you're aware of it. So what you have to do is this. You have to let God guide your life. How can you guide your life when it comes to internet stuff? Here's some things that will help you whenever you run across it. And I'm focusing on internet simply because it's the one I meet with the most people about. If this isn't your issue, that's why John's here, why Tom's here, why J-Mo's here, John's here, Mike is here, for you guys to say, hey, I got a question about this. I got a question about this topic or that. When it comes down to internet, I want to give you a few steps. And I wrote them down because I think they're very beneficial when it comes to the situation of pornography. I was trying to put this talk together, okay? And I don't remember what word search I did in my Google account. I put up there. And when I put it on, a bunch of images shot across the top of my page, okay? All of them were sexual. All of them. I'm going to tell you exactly what I did. Okay? I'm going to tell you exactly what I did. Before I do that, though, I need to tell you how I was able to do that. The first step that you have to take whenever it comes to engaging any of these things, whether it's music, movies, magazines, but mostly the internet, pornography, cell phones, or computers. First thing you have to do is commit yourself to Romans 12:2. Don't just go online and start surfing around. Because what happens is you don't intend it, but each minute moves you closer and closer and closer to something that is going to challenge you. You guys follow me on this? Some of you are not following me, that's fine. Others, I can see in your eyes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So now that you've said, I'm not going to go alone, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time just surfing, the next thing is this. When you go online, because you know the dangers, have a detailed direction you're going with whatever you're looking for. Say it's homework. Know where you're going online. Don't just simply go online and start clicking boxes. Don't go online and just start hoping you end up in the right place. Go on there with some type of direction you're looking for. If you want to know about dirt bikes, write down what you want to know about dirt bikes and then go look online and search for what dirt bikes are. If you want to look about mixed martial arts, know where you're going with that. Don't just go online and start clicking boxes and hoping nothing shows up. Does it make sense? The next thing is this. Mom and Dad are home. Always do it with someone that is home. Make sure they're not just on there endless hours. Make sure that you're not just surfing wherever you want to. Make sure that you know where you're actually going. I had done all of those things. All of those things. And I did my search. And what popped up? What was it? Oh, I typed in practice makes perfect sexual immorality. How stupid was that statement? What do you think you're going to get? I wasn't even thinking. I was like, practicing makes perfect. Stay away from sexual immorality. Search. Bam! It pops up. That's what I do. When it shows up, you exit, just like we talked about there. I hit the off button, shut my computer, put it away, and went outside. I stayed away from my computer for an entire hour. You know why I did that? Because I'm a boy, because I'm a human being, because it sexually tempted me. It tempted me. Toby, you read the Bible all day long? Yeah. I have an active spiritual life, but I'm also a sinful nature-driven person. And the moment it came on, I had to make my decision. Will I look at it, or will I stop? Because I did all the things above it, shut it off. I'm suggesting you do the same thing. When it shows up, don't trust yourself to be strong enough to fight the temptation. Unless you're a Pharisee and your holiness exceeds what they had back in those days, don't tempt yourself with something like that, because it will draw you right in. So don't surf alone. Don't surf long hours. Don't surf just anywhere. Know where you're actually going. And when it pops up, shut it off and get out of Dodge. Does it make sense to you guys? Mm-hmm. Now, I think the women are probably done over there, but I'm not going to just say, hey, for time purposes, we're done. Does anybody have a question right now they want answered? Is it in a group of boys, youth pastors in here, youth leaders are in here? Does anybody have a question they want answered in here right now before I send you guys back in there?